and welcome. So first of all, sorry if I sound a bit bunged up, but I've got a little bit of a cold going on at the moment, so I am sorry for that. But let's get into the video. So today's video is going to be about who murdered King James III of Scotland. So this is a royal murder mystery. So King James III of Scotland was born on either the 10th of July 1451 or in May 1452. He was the son of King James II of Scotland and Mary of Guelders. James became King of Scotland on the 3rd of August 1460 at around 9 years old, after his father was killed in the siege of Roxburgh Castle. So the first part of James's reign was by a regency council, until he came of age in 1469 and took over the running of the country himself. In the same year, he married Margaret of Denmark. So James was not a popular king. There was 2 rebellions in his reign. He was often criticised for his unrealistic schemes to invade Brittany and Guelders. He was accused of debasing coinage and hoarding money. He failed to enforce criminal justice and had a preference for low-born favourites, which alienated the bishops, nobles and some members of his family, including his brothers, his wife and his sons. But worst of all, he was pursuing a policy of alliance with England. So in 1478, this peace with England began to break down. And in 1482, James's brother Alexander, Duke of Albany, used this opportunity to invade Scotland with the help of the English to usurp his brother from the throne. James was captured and imprisoned in Edinburgh Castle, but a little while later he was released and he managed to regain power again. But back in power, James did not change his ways. He still favoured his low-born favourites. He refused to travel to dispense justice. He became estranged from his wife, and when she died it was rumoured that he had actually poisoned her, and he also continued his peace alliance with England. So in January 1488, James used a meeting of his parliament to reward those who had been loyal to him and to make his second son James the Duke of Ross. So making James the Duke of Ross was most likely done to make him more attractive on the marriage market, but it made people think that James the King preferred his second son James over his heir, who was also called James. So 15-year-old James the heir started a 4-month rebellion against his father. It all came to a head on the 11th of June 1488 at the Battle of Saltburn. Now, King James III of Scotland definitely died because of the battle. Now, some people think he died on the battlefield, while others said it was more likely that he didn't and he was killed shortly afterwards. So it is said that James fled the battlefield and that someone obviously saw him fleeing the battlefield, so of course people followed him. They got to a mill just outside Bannockburn, and while at the mill James was stabbed to death, but no one really knows who done it. And indeed there was never actually an investigation into who killed the king. So when his heir became James IV of Scotland, the only explanation that was put out about his father's death was that he happened to be slain by a vile person, which is, as an explanation, is really vague and really non-committal. So who did kill the king? So the most popular theory is that James was killed by a priest or someone pretending to be a priest. The priest was supposed to have been the servant of one of the rebel lords, Lord Grey. So it said that when James got to the mill he was injured, so he was taken in and cared for by the miller and his wife. The priest was apparently passing by and asked if anyone knew where the king was. He was taken to the king and then he stabbed him, killing him. Another person who people think killed the king was his heir, King James IV. So 2 Irish chronicles in the 16th century, which were the Annals of Ulster and the Annals of Cannock, hopefully I've said that right, they both say that he was murdered by his son, either by his son's own hand, and then one is saying by his son ordering someone to murder his father. And then people back this theory up by the fact that King James IV for the rest of his life wore an iron belt in penance. Some people say he wore it in penance because of the fact that he killed his father, while others think that he probably wore it in penance because he went to war with his father. The names of 2 Scottish families have also been put forward as people who could have murdered James. In the reign of King Henry VIII of England, the English Privy Council makes a comment about the Anglo-Scottish border and that there is 2 families there, the Hume family and the Hepburn family, saying that they both have had reputations for killing their king in the past. So no one really forgot the murder of King James III, even though he was really unpopular. People weren't happy about the fact that he had just been murdered. If they wanted him out the way, they wanted him to face proper justice. And also at the time, people thought that kings were anointed by God and appointed by God. So killing a king wasn't really seen as a brilliant thing to do. So to try and counter people continuously asking about what happened to King James III, Parliament put out a notice saying that they would give land to anyone who could identify the killer of the king, and also that if the killer came forward that they would pardon him. They were really hoping that people would just forget James's death and just leave it alone. So even though there are all these people that could have killed King James III of Scotland, because there was no real investigation into what happened, no one knows what happened. So that means that James's death will go down in history as an unsolved murder mystery. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't sound too bunged up in it. If you liked the video, then obviously like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.